Hello and welcome to this game review. So in this game, Black got a big advantage out of the opening and converted it quite well, but as usual, there's always things to improve upon. So let's take a look. It started as the advanced Caro-Kann, and here bishop f5 is the main move, but c5 is also quite a good sideline, and white is less likely to know this line compared to bishop f5. So bishop b5, white plays. And this is a mistake because in general this bishop is better than the one on c8, since the pawns are fixed on light squares for black. Black is fine with exchanging these bishops and white will be left with the bishop on the dark squares. So this is what happens. Now black shouldn't really have any problems. White should probably play something like c3, e6, and we have some kind of French position where black got rid of his worst piece. So white takes on c5, but now black takes the correct pawn, and the material is equal, but white has doubled pawns, and he has no development. So knight c3 happens, now e6, the other pawn is threatened, and it's basically impossible to defend it. For example, bishop e3, rook c8, and the pawn should drop down anyway. But knight f3 is played, now black exchanges and takes this pawn, so now black is a pawn ahead. He also has the better pieces. This knight on c3 is very poorly placed, it doesn't have any future here, so black is almost winning. Also he has the big pawns in the center. So castles, knight f6, bishop g5, and here black goes back to e7 quite quickly. I have to say this is a 30+0 game, and black didn't really think for a single time in this game, though it worked out in this game, but in general I would suggest using more of your time. This way the results will improve even more. And here bishop e7 was kind of unnecessary. Black could just let white take here, and if they do, this endgame would be basically winning for black, because he has the bishop against the knight, and the bishop is very good. It can go, for example, to d4. The pawns in the center are very strong. The king might come to the center through f6, and also black is a pawn ahead, of course. So instead, black plays bishop e7, bishop f6, bishop f6, and white plays queen d3. And here black decides to exchange the bishop for the knight, which is not a very good decision. Of course, in general, we are taught to exchange pieces when we are material ahead, but we shouldn't blindly follow such rules. And here, if we ask ourselves which piece is better, it should be quite obvious that it's the bishop. It is pressuring this whole diagonal. This knight doesn't have any moves forward which would be effective, so black should just castle, put a rook on c8, and probably develop the queen somewhere, and black is basically winning. Instead, bishop c3 happens, and white takes back with the pawn, and here this was also kind of a mistake. White should at least not ruin his structure, but okay. Now black castles, and here white's only chance would be to exchange his bad pawn with c4, and for example, after something like this, queen a5, rook c8, black is doing very well because he has a pawn up and there's weakness on c2, but in general, major piece endgames are a bit more drawn compared to endgames with minor pieces, so that's why we probably shouldn't have taken on c3. But white plays this move f4, which doesn't do anything, and it just weakens white's king, so black continues developing with tempo, king h1 and rook ac8, and white should at least play f5. This is the whole point of f4, and black has some small play, but it's not much. For example, after queen b2, black will pick up more pawns than white, and he will be winning. So rook ab1 instead is played. Now the queen moves, and the rook b3, but this leaves the a2 pawn, and after h3, black defends the pawn on b7. Now black is 2 pawns ahead. There's also a clear target on c3. White's king is a bit weak, so the game should end quite soon. Rook b1, queen comes back. Now white even exchanges queens, which helps black. Now black is 3 pawns ahead. He gives up one of the pawns, and he ends up in this endgame where we have 2 rooks each, with black having 3 passed pawns extra. So this should be a very simple win if we play well and don't mess up the technique. And in general, to win such endgames, we really shouldn't be rushing. Of course, black has 3 connected passed pawns here, but there is no rush to push them right away. Instead, black should probably create some luft for the king, improve it, maybe get some space here, maybe exchange some pawns, and then slowly but surely after activating the rooks, he can push the pawns. Instead, black plays d4, rook b8, d3, but this pawn has gone a bit too far, and now the pawn will be picked up. Still, black could have defended it by giving a check and playing rook d1 to keep all the pawns. This is also a variation that should be found. With 28 minutes we should be able to find this. But even though black blunders this pawn, the position is still winning, because 4 on 2 on one side means that black will have 2 connected passed pawns, which should win basically any endgame. And this basically happens. e4, f5, and black offers an exchange, he picks up more pawns, and the rest of the game is quite simple. There are many ways to win here. Black picks up all the pawns and exchanges the rooks, and the rest is quite simple. So a pretty easy game by black. In general, I would suggest giving more attention to games where we lost, because that's where we can learn the most. But of course, sometimes it's good to praise ourselves for our good play.